Canon?
No, I've got a
Power supply on it there.
I've got Hey. All right.
On?
We're on. We're live. We are live.
Hey everybody.
Hey everybody.
Yeah.
Hey guys. Hopefully you can hear us. Let us know if there's any issues or if you're having trouble hearing us. We've got Danny from GR Research. He came over to the shed because he wanted to go live today, and has a number of cool things that.
Yeah, and I had to pick up some Eagleston speakers too. We did some cool recordings of the before and after of that last Eagleston upgrade that I did, and I'll do a video on that coming up with the sound clips we made. I think that's going to be pretty surprising. And then I got more Eagleston speakers that have come in. I've got Andrea 2s that have come in, and the measurements I've seen on those have the same problem
as the
OSO. So there's a polarity problem. There's a huge hole in the response. So I'll be able to hopefully fix that in that model as well. But it was surprising how much difference there was in other areas, not just in fixing that hole in the response. So that's going to be interesting, I think. So what are we doing, man? We typing messages as we go here?
Yeah, I'm just asking if you guys, can you hear us? Any issues? It's kind of hard to know right off the bat if we're having any technical problems.
Right. We could be talking to ourselves. We got somebody messaging us
already. All right. Hobbs is there. Cool.
Hobbs is there. Right. Hey, you should be working. What are you doing?
Hobbs, get back to work. Sound is good. Yeah. So is the Andrea speaker, is that a step up from OSO or a step down?
It's a more expensive speaker.
More expensive.
Yeah. Okay. It has the same upper section, but it has a larger woofer and it has dual woofers. It has isobaric loaded woofers. So it cuts the airspace down.
What is isobaric? What is that?
It's loading one woofer right up behind the other woofer. So it kind of makes them push-pull.
Okay.
So it's kind of like using two motor structures for one woofer.
Okay.
So you only still have the sweep area of one woofer. But when you have twice the motor structure on it, it cuts the airspace in half.
Okay.
So it makes it do the same thing it did with half the airspace.
Oh,
but
it's cool.
Also a lot more expensive because you got two woofers in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's going to be a fun one to work on. And that specific pair that the customer sent is beautiful. Like, they did beautiful cabinet work and paint.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for everybody to see those.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, wow, it looks like there is a bunch. I'm good. Hey, I brought my glasses today, so I can, when we get going here, I can start trying to.
I'm just going to nod off and let you take care of this.
Trying to read that stuff, man. That's always difficult. Usually when we do this, he's reading everything, and I'm just sitting back answering questions as he reads them and stuff. So, yeah, it'll probably make me do some scanning for some questions and stuff. So, we may have settled on a name.
Yeah.
We've still been calling that thing Aria some with that new speaker that we've developed together. And, but we realized that name's taken, and we've kind of struggled for months. Like, what are we going to call this thing? And then Ron came up with a great idea.
I came up with a name finally. So Aria, which is taken by Focal, and I think that it's even used for a headphone. A Hi-Fi Man headphone has an Aria headphone as well. So we decided to walk away from that and been brainstorming, and we've kind of hit just a brick wall with that name for a while.
Yeah.
And I think we have settled on AlphaOne.
Yep.
AlphaOne is what we've decided.
It fits. It's kind of it's the first project we've done together.
Yep. So and AlphaOne is the running name right now, and I think that feels right to me. It feels right to you. So no trademark issues.
A whole bunch of cabinets, 100 pairs are about to finally hit the water. There's been a hold on that stuff for a little bit while this tariff trade negotiation went on, because we weren't going to pay 145% duty on the cabinets, and everything else is pretty much made here. Other than the drivers that are made in India,
we're
going to assembling it all and doing everything here in the U.S. And and it's using all US parts. And so we still have to rely on those guys over there for cabinets because they do such beautiful cabinet work, and the cabinets look gorgeous. And it looks like we've reached a trade negotiation settlement.
Today, I think they
announced it today.
Yeah.
And it may only be a 10% duty.
That's duty.
Like, woohoo!
Great.
Like, man.
Yeah.
That's going to help a lot of industries.
Yeah.
So I'm real happy about that. And so that stuff's on its way. And then the other thing we posted about in the title was
the Encore Extreme.
Encore Extreme. Like, when we did the Aria, I'm still calling it the Aria. Man, I got to
the AlphaOne.
When we did the AlphaOne, it's got a rear-facing driver on there, and it starts to sound like an open baffle speaker. Everything is within the room instead of playing at you from a box. It's really incredible what it does to the imaging. In some cases, it's very subtle, but it's clear. It's like, wow, that really opens up the soundstage. So we tried something on the little XLS Encore. I've got new tweeters that I've developed. It's a small tweeter, little Neo motor on it. And we just stuck one to the back of the XLS Encores. We brought him in, and Hobbs and I set it up, and we didn't tell him.
You brought him over to the studio.
Yeah, we brought him over.
You had me walk outside. I didn't know what they were doing. And you had it 3D printed to where it just hung off the back, and I couldn't see what it was.
Yeah.
It was clever. And I just sat down and listened.
We added tweeters to the back of his Encores. And 2 songs in, he just looked at me and was like this unbelievable look on his face because the whole soundstage completely opened up more on him. And he was like, you made these sound like the Arias. Like, these sound big and spacious. And it's like, hey. Yeah. It worked really well. So we've built upon that. And we've also been working with, the 3D printing that we've done of the front baffles and sweeping the baffles completely away from the drivers and what that does to the off-axis response and stuff and how it'll maintain a perfectly flat response all the way in every direction.
Yeah.
And of course, the Encores already had a low crossover point. So as you moved up or down, it didn't change the time alignment enough to cause any cancellation. It has the same sound almost in every direction. And so doing that to the front baffle took that a whole nother step. And so we're doing that. The baffle swept away from the drivers. It's getting a rear firing tweeter. And I may get to drop a Harp device inside of it as well, which also improves image focus. So that's going to take his favorite speaker, and it's our best-selling speaker.
Yeah.
And it's going to allow that to go up in performance quite a bit as far as imaging and layering and things like that. And image focus, it's going to really, really excel in those areas. So I'm only going to offer those fully assembled. I'm having a bunch of cabinets made and sent over, and we'll just do that, the XLS Encore Extreme.
Yeah,
fully assembled and stuff. So
that's going to be exciting.
That's coming, and that's still going to be a fairly inexpensive speaker.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so. And would you say that the same rule applies as AlphaOne, that you want a minimum of 3 feet?
Yeah, as soon as you add that rear firing tweeter,
you got to give it some room.
You need a little space. You need 3 feet or more out in the room, and you don't want a flat wall behind it. Of course, you never really want a flat wall behind your speakers. If you're really into this, like we are, and you're wanting this layered soundstage, then this flat wall is your enemy.
Yeah.
So more so when we add a rear firing tweeter, but wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be a nice little offering that we're going to get to throw out there.
It's going to be killer. And the Encore is my favorite speaker. And so many people that are getting into this hobby that don't have a whole lot of money to spend.
I know.
I can't think of a better.
We offer that base level kit for less than $400. You buy the kit and you build it yourself, and that thing that always sounds good.
Yeah, and with the Extreme, that's going to take it to a whole new level for folks that maybe they're already familiar with the Encore, and they have the right room, and they want to see what that depth can bring to the party. Dude, that is going to be
the look on his face.
Oh, I couldn't believe it.
He just looked, what did you just do to me? Because they looked like they were the same speaker just sitting there, like he's listened to them thousands of times.
Well, and to give a little bit more context, it was funny because right before that you brought that over, I could tell you were already thinking like, kind of need to update my own products line now because AlphaOne just did a big leap ahead.
It did.
And it's like, well, now we need to kind of close the gap a bit, you know?
Technology's learned and applied to other models. So you guys are always giving me crap because I'm always upgrading everybody's stuff that people send in. We're always working on ways to upgrade our own products all the time as well. And so it's always good when we can figure out a tweak or two that's like, like, let's apply this now to this other model. Who knows? You know, so
do you think that you're gonna employ the Harp device on the Encore Extreme? Is that an option? Maybe
they gave me an okay to only sell it or only use it in a finished product. That I can't sell it
as a do-it-yourself,
as just here you go. Here's a Harp.
Sure,
they don't want it sold that way.
Okay,
so
it's a possibility then.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think so. Yeah.
Well, that'd be cool because that makes a difference.
We can't even at Raw. It's like we can't listen to anything serious without that on there.
Yeah,
because it's so noticeable. It so improves the image focus of everything.
Yeah,
it's like you realize when it's not there. Oh, I had some guys over a couple of days ago, and they'd come up from Louisiana. They flew into Dallas and rented a car, drove over, and they were auditioning some different things. The guy wanted to build a theater system. And he was asking about that. What is that thing on the back of there? What is that? What is that you've got clipped onto the back of the speaker? You know. And I kind of explained what it was, and of course he just kind of looked at me with a blank look, like, okay, what does it do? You know. So I said, well, look, just listen.
Yeah,
just listen and see what you think. And while the song was playing, I went over and disconnected one, and the guy went, We went, whoa, something changed already, and I disconnected the other one, and they went, like, wait, put it back, you know. Clipped it on, went over the other one, clipped it back on. They're like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, you know. It's you know, you don't have to be a refined audio ear to pick up on what it's doing. It improves image focus. It's pretty cool. So
super cool, man.
Now I guess we're gonna have to start going through some questions here.
We've got
the old questions and answers here. Are we at the top, or do we need to go way up?
This is the first question that stood out to me. This is a great question. It says, Glenn Priest is asking if you can only hear to about 13 or 14K, does it matter how well your system plays above that? And if so, can you please explain?
That's a great question.
It is.
So even though you can't hear things above a certain threshold, you feel it. You know, you sense it. It's still there. And I'll give you some examples. One day, Hobbs and I were in the shop there, and I was working on a speaker, and I had it on the stand, and I decided we'd use that speaker and just do a quick check of our hearing to see basically how high we can hear. We do that every now and then, you know. And I can do a really narrow band sine wave with the Clio, not with any overtones or anything, really narrow, specific band. And Hops could hear to like 19.5, you know, and clear to 19. Me, I'm at like 18.5. I can hear it. 19. I'm like, I'd have to kind of go past the speaker in front of it and have my ear closed. And it's like, you can kind of hear it. But the funny thing we noticed is, even if we'll send it a 20 kHz note, even though we can't hear it, it's like you feel it. Especially if I turn the volume up a little bit, you're like, what is going on? What are you doing? It's
a sensory then.
It's a sensory thing. And Chris, who was working for me at the time, he could only hear to like 16,000 hertz. His top end is gone. And we would wait. I'd wait. I'm like, there's Chris. He's right in line with that speaker. He's on the other side of the office. He's like 20 something feet away. And I would hit 19 and a half or 20K, and I would turn the volume up, and Chris would just kind of go,
without him, he didn't even know what you were doing then.
What are you doing over there? You know, he's cringing and he can't even hear that, but you feel it.
Wow.
And if you walk past the speaker with it playing at a pretty good level at that, you cringe. I mean, you feel that pressure. Yeah. It's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So there's overtones and things that are going on up there that surprisingly really play a big role in imaging and soundstage layering things. Where things are within the soundstage are very much centered around those spatial cues. And if you take that top octave and you pull it out, the soundstage collapses.
Yeah.
It becomes really flat. So even though you can't hear very well up there, it still plays a really big role in what you can hear.
Yeah.
So cool question though.
Yeah, it's a great question. Stay Brown is asked, excuse me, I skipped this. Sean B is asking, Danny, what frequency range does baffle step loss start occurring with the XLS Encore?
With the Encore around just below 1,000 hertz with that baffle width 900 or so, it'll start dropping off. So at that point, you have to compensate and balance it out. And it depends on the baffle width. The wider your baffle, the lower in frequency that step loss occurs. When you get into something like the little 2.4s that we had in here, which he fell in love with, the baffle's only about this wide. It starts at about 1,400 hertz or 1,500 hertz. It moves up the scale to where it starts. So.
Stay Brown is asking, I have a small 8x10 room with a pair of Tannoy E-ends. Would I benefit from diffusion panels? Where would they be placed? That room's really small, Stay. Small. I got to be honest. I think that...
We call that a closet here in Texas.
Yeah, I would say it depends on the type of diffusion. I think diffusion like what you offer, the styrofoam diffusion, would be fine.
Yeah.
But if you're talking like a traditional diffuser like this, it's not going to work because you need space for the diffuser to propagate. So
the little styrofoams, ones that we do that are little triangle-shaped wedges.
You could do that.
You could do that, and you'd be surprised how much bigger the room will sound.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear those flat walls creating those reflections. It'll make the room sound as if it's bigger and further away from you. You're breaking up that reflection. So yeah, anywhere you've got flat space, especially a small room like that, you're not gonna need a whole lot of it because you don't have a lot of wall area to cover. So even if you spent $1,200 on diffusers for it, if you're really into music, that could be the best $1,200 you've ever spent.
For sure. Yeah. My recommendation, Stay, is I would treat the front wall and the back wall first, start with that, and then go from there.
And then your first reflection points down the side. And you may have to go to the ceiling as well.
Yeah.
Depending on how tall your ceiling is.
Tommy is asking, Danny, will there be a time when you will perform the speaker upgrades for customers? If not, can you recommend somebody who will? I think what he means is you actually do the assembly work.
Yeah, right now with the number of guys working for me, it's tough for either any of us to just stop and do assembly work. It's like it's so time consuming, and it's really tough for me. My guys, especially Hobbs, is pushed me toward, hey, work on the design work. Don't get caught up doing so much assembly work because it's like, man, I'm just spending my time putting something together when I could be doing a whole bunch of more important elements within my craft. And there's a lot of people that can do the assembly. So in order for me to have to do it, really, I'd have to hire some people to just work for me full time, just sitting there doing assembly work. And that's an option. I've got some of the space now that we've opened up more work area. But as of right now, I try to avoid it. But there are times that I'll take in some of this stuff, like on those Eggleston works, that customer, it's not a DIY guy. It's like, man, he really wants me to do the whole thing, and he didn't care what it costs. It's like, do it, and I'm not in a hurry for it. If I can work it in to all the other work that I'm trying to get done, like just do it at the end of the day, work on assembling some crossovers or something. And, it's tough to allocate that time for it. But also I've had a few guys that have said, I'm disabled, I'm a veteran, can you help me out? Man, I can't turn stuff down like that, man.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta, I'll put it together for you, kind of a situation. But it's tough. There's not enough hours in the day. I'm still working on my new listening room.
Yeah.
I need to get back in there and finish up that next layer of wall and get the diffusers mounted and stuff. There's just not enough hours in the day.
Yeah. Kevin Dillinger is asking, Danny, I'm in the process of building some Encore boxes out of 3/4-inch solid oak with all the bracing and no res. Any worries with the use of solid oak?
Yeah. Solid woods are a lot more resonant. So the bracing and the no res is pretty much a must.
Yeah.
If it was an unbraced box,
you'd be in some trouble.
You'd be in big trouble. It would buzz and it would cover and blot over all the mid-range, and the upper bass would be a mess.
If he does sufficient bracing and no res, he might
stiffen it up with the
okay.
bracing. You'll push the resonant points to a higher frequency. Higher frequency resonances are easy for the no res to eat up. So you'll be okay if you do all that. You'll be okay. Especially because it's a small box. If it were a really bigger box with bigger panels, it would really be disastrous.
Yeah. Let's take a look here. This is a great question. Johnson is asking, do the N Extremes exaggerate imaging given their height? Are instruments and artists bigger than their real life sizes?
No. It's still a point source with a tweeter right at ear level. So think of the lower frequencies that those outer woofers are covering. That's such a low frequency range, it's almost in an omnidirectional area. They're only playing up to about 160, and they're playing down to about 50 or 40 something. So it's just like having another subwoofer, whether it's in the corner or away from the corner. Like, you can't tell.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to notice any of that, but yeah, it sounds the same as the In Exotica. Some things I think scale a little bit better ceiling to floor. Like when you hear, like in the Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms CD, you hear the Rolling Thunder.
Yeah.
In the Brothers in Arms song. Isn't that it?
Yeah.
Brother in Arms song. And you can just hear it roll across the top of the.
It's more believable sounding. Yeah.
It's just more there than with a shorter speaker, but it doesn't over exaggerate anything like that at all. But it scales things accurately to the middle of the room a little bit better. So.
Let's see here. I don't quite understand this question, but it says the knife edge on your woofers is install friendly. Can the same be done for a tweeter?
Yeah, he's talking about the frames on our woofers are designed to be surface mounted, where the frames just roll smoothly over it into a little knife edge, which means you don't have to remove baffle thickness in order to mount it, which allows the baffle to be thicker and it has a better control over it. It would be tough to do that on a tweeter. As you go up in frequency, it starts getting to be where it may see that as a diffraction. You'd have to do it really well. It'd have to really smoothly roll in to get that to work, but it's possible, especially if the rest of the baffle rolled with it. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Really Unfortunate is asking, how important is phase relationship and time aligning the drivers in speaker design? Is that something you take into consideration when you're designing a speaker, Danny?
Yeah, all the time. We're looking at time arrival of everything and making sure everything's in phase. The crossover can cause phase shifts, so you have to take into account what the crossover is doing versus the offset of the drivers and trying to make sure everything is in phase. And then, as you know, we've moved to the AlphaOnes, which has a wideband driver covering that whole range.
Yeah,
and it's time and phase coherent. The step response is perfect on that little driver, and it does improve imaging when everything is arriving in time perfectly. I think, though, when you really start noticing how messed up something is when things get really off, like if you listen to some of the big horn speakers, some of the bigger clips, you're looking at time arrivals that are really spaced far apart, and you start realizing that it really messes up the imaging, or it messes with it. It pushes things around in the soundstage where they're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Versus, a small speaker with just a tweeter and a woofer. It's easy to get it close enough to where you don't really notice those things, but there is some advantage going to something that's time and phase coherent. There is advantages there.
Couldn't ask for a perfect follow-up speaker. Danny, have you ever thought about making a horn speaker?
I have. I've had people kind of ask me about that stuff, but
I want to see you do it.
Yeah, it's tough to do it correctly. And like I just said, like the clip stuff, you got a horn that's this deep.
Yeah.
You got a voice coil way back here and a woofer way up here. It's like,
there is no aligning that.
There's no fixing that. So if I did do some type of horn speaker, I'd try to figure out a way to try and keep the time arrivals consistent, so that it's not so messed up. Because I'm into imaging and soundstage layering and stuff.
You can't have acoustic strings here and body here. And
I know.
Well, where is that?
You start hearing that stuff and you're like, wait a
that's
second.
all wrong. What's going on here? Right.
When you're used to hearing everything in kind of arriving in a way that like acoustic guitar sounds like it's right in front of you, and then you hear it in a way to where the strings are pushed forward and the body's behind it. It's like, wait a second, that doesn't sound right anymore.
Yeah. Is there some way you can quantify output limitations and or long-term or short-term compression data for at least the models geared towards us home theater guys? Quantify output limitations and or long-term and short-term compression data for at least the models geared towards us home theater guys.
Yeah. For me, that stuff's not an issue because I don't listen to things at 110 dB.
Yeah.
And if you start pushing levels to that point, you're going to lose your hearing.
You ain't
that's
gonna be
rough.
listening for long, right?
Yeah, it's cool to have dynamic peaks that hit those levels, but man, it's hard to play at those levels. And yeah, at those extreme levels, a lot of speakers are going to compress. If you're listening at same levels, you don't have to worry about dynamic compression that much. If you're listening to levels below 100, or mini monitors maybe below 95, 94 dB, you're not going to. It's not that big of an issue, but it could be if you guys are listening crazy loud. And every speaker's different. There's ways to design speakers to where they have huge dynamics like that without any compression, but you're not going to get there with a 5 1/4 inch driver.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, you have to design for the application.
Makes sense.
Our home theater speakers are designed for quality and reasonable sound pressure levels.
Yeah.
100 dB peaks with some of those floor standing models, ecstatics.
Almost every speaker you make could still lead to damaging your eardrums.
They can. I've heard,
listen with caution.
I've heard ecstatic and ex voce combos up front that could play way louder than you want to listen.
Super loud. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a time when I was younger that I thought all of that was really cool. But as you get older and you're watching a movie, sometimes you want to enjoy the movie and not feel like you just fell off a roller coaster when the movie's over. It's like,
man,
and some of those sound levels, it's like, that's what happens. You feel like you're in shock after the end of the movie. Like, man, wow, that was a heck of a movie. Maybe I'm getting old.
Maybe I am too, because I don't listen that loud.
I don't listen that loud.
Listen that loud. Would you send CNC cut files for people in faraway countries?
The thing is, I don't own any of those CNC files. It's like the guys that spent the time doing all the programming to make that. That belongs to them. Killian and those guys.
Yeah,
they did all that work.
Denton Woodworkers, they're the one that are putting in the time to do all that. It's their file.
And with the NX series, the guys up in Canada, Jay and all those guys, they put in tons of hours.
Yeah,
with programming,
refining, and
getting that correct, and they own that. So I can't even give it away.
Yeah. Let's take a look here. Two giants in the field. So got to ask, why do you think there are so few women audiophiles? They are the first on the dance floor at a wedding? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
I don't know, man. What's weird is I've told this before. My wife has a really discerning ear. There's times I can remember back when we lived here at your place. She's back there ironing, and I'm over here tweaking and doing something, and I'm listening to music, and she says, that sounds different. What'd you do? I just switched out the cables to something different, a different cable. And she says, But then if you say, which one did you like better? I don't care.
Yeah.
She didn't care. There's no preference from my wife, but she's got a great ear, and there's times she'll sit down and listen to stuff with me and enjoy it. But I could go through any of my speakers and put them up there, and she'd enjoy it all just the same.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe a lot of women are like that. It's like guys being into cars.
Yeah.
Women just don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're happy with whatever car they need to drive. I don't know.
I've always thought this is kind of simple. I think that guys like stuff. We like gear. We like hot rods and things like that. Girls like the experience. So they'll go to a concert. They'll go to, a car show or whatever. But, we like the stuff.
Yeah, we like the stuff. And there are some girls out there and some women who are audiophiles.
Yeah, there are.
Don't get me wrong. I've had some customers.
Yeah.
I've had some women order kits and build them themselves and stuff. Not many.
Yeah, not too many. Danny, have you experimented with 3D printed cabinets?
Yeah, we've tried prototyping with them, and we did some of that with the little LGKs. Um, it doesn't sound very good if you make the side panels and stuff out of that. It sounds messed up.
Yeah.
There's a certain coloration there, but we've used it a lot for baffle shapes. You know, when you print something pretty thick and you cut holes in it for drivers, you really don't have much left to resonate. It's a frame.
Yeah.
And it works great for that. But
yeah.
Yeah, you start printing whole boxes.
You're running sound pressure and that.
Yeah. You start putting pressure on that. I don't know. You'd have to 3D print some really thick stuff. And by that time, it's like, man, just cut it out of wood.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. Just get some MDF and just slice that up and you can cut it out. Where that printer might take hours to print a little panel.
Yeah.
You know? So,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Bear the Truth is asking, Danny, do you think that the Prima Luna 40-watt tube amp would be sufficient to drive the XLS Encores with fully upgraded package? My gut is telling me yes.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Probably our favorite tube amp that we've had in here has been Brian Miller's
35 watts.
35-watt tube. Man,
nuts!
Beautiful sound. I've had that on most of my little smaller speakers that are all desktop size, 87 dB speakers and Encores as well. And it works great.
That thing's a cat's pajamas.
It is. That
is a grand slam home run.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's probably enough power. Yeah. Unless you're wanting insane levels, it'll have plenty of power.
Google AX is reminding, hit the thumbs up, support the GR Research community on YouTube. And guys, don't be afraid to do a super chat. Anything helps out with Danny's channel. So throw in a super chat if you'd like.
Yep. Thanks for the thumbs up and the subscribers.
Yeah.
I'm getting close to that 100K mark before you know it.
Get yourself a little plaque.
Yeah, maybe.
How about that?
Maybe by the end of the year or something, if you guys help me out.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Let's see here. I love watching you guys, learning so much from both of you. Ron, your reviews are second to none. And Danny, you are a wealth of knowledge. Your videos are so educational. Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's take a look here. What are your opinions on piezoelectric tweeters? Piezo
tweeters?
Piezo?
Yeah. Man, I remember back in the day, you could get those little Motorola tweeters for nothing.
$2.
Yeah, they didn't even need a crossover. You just stick them into something. And they're perfect for if you're trying to run off varmints and birds. You can send some really high frequency through those things above what we can hear. Those things will play to like 40,000 hertz or higher.
No problem.
And it'll, if you've got nesting problems of birds under your carport, those tweeters are the best, man, for putting some high frequency signal through. It will run everything off.
But for hi-fi,
not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah, not so much. Yeah.
Oh my goodness sakes. Speaking of damaging eardrums, have you been down the drag strip lately?
I have.
You have, and I've watched you.
Yeah, he watched me.
Yeah.
I was out there, I guess this weekend it'll be 2 weeks. And the shifter linkage broke in my Corvette. And GM cars they're kind of known for that. There's a little plastic clip that connects the bottom of the shifter to the cable. And it gets warm and crumbly, and that little plastic bushing crumbles and falls apart. And then the cable comes off. It's like I was stuck. I couldn't shift gears. I couldn't put it in parking. So he got to watch me make one pass. One time trial. I cut an 026 light, which was pretty good. And then I was done for the day. But this Saturday, there's a big event out at the track, and I'll be back out there again running the sportsman class and hopefully bringing home the money.
Heck yeah.
I usually do pretty well. By the time that season's over, I have won more money than I've spent on entry fees. So racing's a lot of fun. I love it.
Let's take a look here. Any reason why companies don't build more speakers in pods? As an example, the old Bowers you upgraded. I love the pods. So maybe
like the tweeter.
It is pretty cool. There's a lot of pros to that.
There is. Anytime you get your high frequency driver away from surface reflections, it'll sound more transparent.
Yeah, it'll open up.
Anytime you mount a tweeter right in the middle of a great big baffle, it'll sound like it's playing from that baffle. That's just all there is to it. So I don't know why more companies don't do it. The expense of it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. It's too easy to just cram it in a box, I guess.
Danny, what do you think about omnidirectional speakers?
I think it's surprising how good they can sound.
Yeah.
I have a little X model that's X Omni. The woofer faces up and little tweeters on the side. And if you compare that to the Encore, which it's the same drivers, it sounds more open and layered and bigger, and it sounds fantastic. I love it, but it's just a hard sell. People don't understand it. They think, is the sound reflecting off the ceiling? No, you're just 90 degrees off axis on the woofer, so you're not having to compensate for step loss. You're still hearing it straight out, but you're hearing what is in an omni pattern. And as you go higher in frequency, it starts to beam, and at that point, you have to have the tweeter there to pick that up.
Yeah.
So it can easily be done if you know what you're doing, but I found it's a tough sell. It's hard to sell people on those. So
that's a good question.
Interesting question.
Any thoughts on stone for a speaker cabinet? Fisher & Fisher are slate, and there's a company that uses marble. Wondering why such materials aren't used by more companies.
Because it's expensive and it's hard to machine. That's why companies don't use it. But yeah, you might see it on a high-end speaker.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's hard to, especially get into marbles and granite. Real stuff, oh, that stuff's hard. It's hard to machine it.
Yeah.
You got to countersink the drivers into that stuff, and man,
you're spending a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody's paying a lot of money for shipping.
Somebody's paying a lot of money for shipping, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. The dude is saying 70s DCM time windows have a tower curved rear speaker back panel. In your experience, is that a positive or a negative?
What kind of rear panel?
It says have a tower curved rear speaker back panel. I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure what that means, but I guess he's referring to some rear mounted drivers.
I'm familiar with that speaker. DCM time window, I think, is one of those classics. It was like an audiophile classic. And
yeah, some of the older ARs had some ambient tweeters and stuff too. If done right, it can really add something to the whole presentation.
Let's take a look here. Danny, do you guys do upgrades for the Polk R900s and the L800s? Are there benefits for crossover upgrades on those models? I don't think you've done either of those.
Yeah, but there's a huge benefit in the crossover upgrades. I mean, they put very budget level parts in those.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of performance there.
The good news is that every Polk that I've edited for your videos,
of all the newer models,
all the engineering has been really well done.
We got in an old vintage, like what are those models? You guys can help me out. Remember the old models that had the lines of woofers and the tweeters? They were a disaster in a way, because as you move left or right, the woofers that were spaced far apart, and they had a big passive radiator at the bottom a lot of times.
It's probably like those L800s, the Legend series, where it does that.
You move left or right, it crashes, and if you move up or down, the tweeters cancel each other out. But they had a smaller model with one tweeter and a woofer on either side, and I think it had a passive radiator underneath it. It's the smallest of those models. It didn't have those problems, except for, moving left or right, the two woofers would
cancel each other out.
Yeah. But we do have one of those models in right now for upgrades, and I did measure it, and it measured really well. Like for an older model, they did really well with designing that thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah. Scott Clark is asking, Danny, are there any vintage speakers you have always wanted to own and upgrade? Anything vintage that you personally would want to own and maybe take a crack at?
That's an interesting question. Not that I can think of. Not really.
Anything sentimental from your college days? You were like, I would love to just have a pair of those again.
No. I mean, back when I was a kid, I started out with some old Norman Lab speakers, and it was a 10-inch two-way design. And thinking back about how that thing was built with just little first order crossovers and electrolytic cap, I'm thinking, man, if I'd only known back then what I know now, I could have taken those to really much higher heights. But do I want to go back and do one of those now? Nah, I don't really care. I'm not that sentimental about some of that stuff.
About to build Encores. My go-to is 12 millimeter MDF and a 6 millimeter Baltic birch skin. Not much more money than veneer and a good look. Is the composite beneficial? Comments on this construction? Thanks.
Yeah, there is some benefit to using different materials stacked on top of each other. You know, the resonant frequency of each of those panels are different.
Yeah.
So
it's a good thing.
It damps out the resonance of the MDF is damped out by the plywood, and the resonance of plywood is kind of damped out by the MDF. It's always good to have dissimilar materials stacked up like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be sure you're getting a little thick there with 6 and 12. Be sure you round your corners, and you'll be fine. And be sure on the back side of the woofer through hole, the thicker that front baffle gets, the more you need to radius that back side through hole. Man, got a lot of questions coming in.
A lot of questions.
Man, I don't know if we can get to all these questions, but we'll.
I know. We're already.
I can barely see them. I noticed putting my glasses on. This print is about that big. I don't know how. If that were my monitor, I'd have to blow the print up to a whole lot bigger. I even have trouble still even seeing it, even with my glasses on.
That's funny. Why do we audiophile men have big bellies? Is it because we sit down too much and listen to music for too long?
I don't know. I don't have one.
You don't have a big belly.
No.
I have a big belly. I eat a lot of brisket, though.
Yeah. Although it's not in the greatest of shape right now. I've quit training for the track meets for a little while. I just finished a soccer season. But playing the soccer, I'm playing one night a week. It's not really a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Because we like to sit around and drink things and listen to music. Yeah, Ron actually made me a special little drink here I'm drinking.
Drinking some mud water.
I'm drinking mud water, and this is my first time to drink it, and it's pretty good.
Not too bad, right?
Might have to get me some of it.
All right.
Yeah. Maybe we're just lazy audiophiles or something.
I am.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm the exception. I've got
You're pretty active.
I got a lot of interest in a lot of areas.
Yeah. You're always, it seems every week, and you're like, I'm going to go do soccer, or I'm going to go and do a drag race, or I'm going to go do this.
Soccer,
like, you're active. You're not sitting around.
I
think you get antsy if you sit around too much.
do. Used to, if I didn't do enough, back when my wife and I first got married, she'd notice if I wasn't going and playing a sport, I would really get antsy.
She's like, you need to leave and go do something.
She used to call my buddy Peter Powell, and she'd say, hey, Peter, I think Danny needs to go play some racquetball. Why don't you give him a call? And he would give me a call. Hey, man, you going to play some racquetball? Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go. Yeah. And then I'd play a bunch of racquetball.
And that's your reset.
As my release.
Yeah.
So then I'm fine again. I have to balance work and play.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always been sport. And the soccer season just concluded. And I was told by the referees and stuff that I won the Golden Boot Award for the season.
Wow.
That means I scored more goals than anybody in the league.
Well, how about that?
This season, I did 13 goals.
That's an accomplishment, man.
Yeah, for an old man. Yeah.
Congratulations.
That was a lot of fun. And I can't wait to go get in another soccer game. I really can. I love
That's
playing.
awesome, man.
Yep.
Let's see here. Sean B is asking, Danny, have you been able to compare the LGK driver with wideband Fostex and all pair drivers?
I don't know. All pair.
All pair?
Oh man, I should start a list of all the full range or wideband drivers that
I remember
I've
you were
tested.
telling me you went through
lot.
like a gazillion of those things.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
The Fostex drivers, I like if you limit the range of those drivers to the vocal region. Once you let them go up, most of them have a real rising response and some resonances and breaking up. Yeah, there's stuff going on there that's not good.
You got to hand it over to a tweeter then.
Yeah, you need to hand it over to a tweeter. And my other issue with the wideband drivers, as soon as you start really getting big in size, the off axis drops off.
It starts to beam
dramatically. You're really beaming in a hurry. Then you have to kind of aim them right at your head. And then you lose some of that air and spaciousness because you're not really hearing it other than what's coming right at your head. For me, the sweet spot was shrinking that down to that little 3-inch driver. And then it had really good off-axis response, but fairly controlled, not as wide as a tweeter. So it's a little forgiving for some rooms, but it's still a lot better than a 6-inch driver or an 8-inch driver, or something like that. So to me, that little 3 hit the sweet spot, and it's been a favorite,
Looks like there's a correction down here that just came in here. I think they meant Mark Audio all pair. So maybe
Mark Audio
drivers.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I've had some of the Mark Audio drivers. The little Metalcon driver And it was the same way. I've got some measurements on it, and
yeah.
I've got photos of one that came in that was in one of their boxes, and yeah, it had a lot of ringing going on.
Okay.
Very severe ringing going on.
Let's take a look here. When and what can I expect to build something to beat my end game in Extreme? Crickets?
Yeah, crickets. Man. I mean, I just had another guy over today that came in from Utah.
You know, if you're talking about the game they play, I don't know how you would beat that game. You know, I mean,
those do everything well.
Yeah, you move in the direction of an Alpha One, it's a different game. Like it's playing a different game, but it can't do.
Those AlphaOnes have kind of become my favorite speaker to listen to.
Yeah,
but they won't do what the NX.
No way. You put on like Blue Man Group or Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin and you just rock out, they would spank Alpha-One. They'd be like, get out of here. Get out of here.
And they still have that beautiful vocal.
Yeah.
They have better detail in the top end, more airiness, you know, and then with the servo subs along with them, man, they're flat to 20 hertz and fast as can be. It's like, it's just, as an all-around speaker, that's really, really tough to beat. So I have no answer to how to follow that up right now.
OCD Mikey gets nervous when people bring up Encore Acoustics. I don't know why that would be.
I don't know why he gets nervous. I have no idea.
I don't even know who Encore Acoustics is. I haven't talked
to Mikey since we saw him at the show.
Yeah. Have you measured any car audio speakers? If so, what did you like?
It's funny. I had a guy bring in a briefcase, like a suitcase that he opened up, and there was pre-cut foam that looked, you know, it's like a $600 suitcase, and inside were all these super high-end car audio drivers. He wanted to know if maybe we could make a really high-end speaker using those drivers. So we did some measurements on some of them. I had some test boxes that they fit in, and they were totally unusable, like
garbage,
complete messed up. And he said those were like $12,000 worth of drivers or something, like
garbage.
It was messed up.
You're like, start over.
Car audio is a tough gig, man, because you really need to design each crossover for each application.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot easier if you have a complete digital crossover system. You can sit there in the car with the microphone and you can go in and balance everything out, because you take a passive two-way design, stick it in the car door, the response is going to be completely different from one car to the next. You know, it's really a tough gig.
Sure.
You know, and it's hard to use, you know, those drivers are designed for that application. So it's hard to use them in home applications.
Headphone rigs. Any new headphones you guys listening to? We're both in love with these.
Yeah.
Which, Danny, you sell these on your site.
You can order them on my site.
These are the Empyrean 2s. These are my favorite headphones of all time.
Those are really good.
They're incredible.
Now, not too far down from those, I think. The new Verum 2s.
Verum 2s are very nice. Really balanced. I
just got a bunch of them in.
Wow.
I just got in some, you know, I've been on I bought them, you know, got on the list there when they did the little, what do you call it there? A little, tried to raise money.
GoFundMe? Is that what you did? A GoFundMe, I think?
No, that wasn't GoFundMe. It was more of a pre-order deal. Anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I've gone through a lot of those Verum ones. I've sold a lot of them. And so he sent me my first batch of those. I've been on the waiting list for the Verum 2s for quite a while.
That's
and we've
really
got
cool.
some in. And we're in production right now with the new GR Research tube headphone amp.
Oh, man.
And they're gorgeous. I can't wait.
That combo is perfect.
Yeah. Oh, man. It matches the Verum planar magnetics. That headphone amp will drive anything. Yeah. Hard to drive headphones, no problem. And they look beautiful. Really nice aluminum front and side panels that are anodized that match the spikes and the volume. It's just, I'll do a video on it pretty soon and fill you guys in on all the details. But that plus the Verum headphones is a killer combination.
Killer combo. Cool.
Yeah. And it's going to be pretty reasonably priced, especially when you look at really high-end tube headphone amps. That's going to be really reasonably priced.
What kind of music do you both listen to when you're not evaluating gear?
Not evaluating gear. Well, Ron rode with me down to the show. So XM radio for me, my favorite channels are Ozzy's Boneyard, Hair Nation, and of course, the deep cuts versions of those, of those channels. And there's a couple more.
I was stuck in an 80s time warp. I should have been like in a Firebird for crying out loud.
If I'm cruising down the road,
we should have had mullets, blazing in the sun. Just
I'm like, oh, dude, this is a really good song. I'll crank it up, and I was like, oh yeah, that does sound really good. It's a good guitar intro, and then it's like, and then he's like, oh, and then it just got cheesy. But for me, if I'm driving down the road, I need something that's kind of power driven.
Yeah.
To give me a smile.
Yeah.
And all that old 80s stuff, because I grew up in that era. I'm 50, almost 59 now. In a couple of months, I'll be 59.
Well, I discovered that we both enjoy Jack Johnson quite a bit.
Yeah, we love Jack Johnson.
If you and I are just hanging out and we would just want to enjoy and we're not even evaluating, like, hey, this just sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll put on some Jack Johnson.
Yeah. And we both like I love listening to some of the Vienna Tang tracks and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
There's quite a bit of music that I just love listening to that I'm not evaluating. I want to listen to it.
Yeah.
A lot of those female vocals, I really like listening to all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, cool question, though.
Yep. Danny, I have an 8x10 living room. Which speaker kit should I get from you? Less than 1 foot from the wall speaker position. Encores.
Yeah, it's tough to beat Encores. If you're stuck with something really close to the wall, too, all those LGK models, little LGK.
Yeah.
1 point. What are those models? I'm sorry. The 2.5 or
2.0.
2.0, the 2.1, 2.2.
2.2.
Yep. Those models are great.
Yep.
You can stick those close to the wall. You can do a little theater system with those. Those are fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another problem with getting old. Like, I know the name of those things. I can't think of it.
It's your own
man. I get my kids' names mixed up too. I'll call them. I'm like, call them the wrong name. They're like, Dad.
I'm
like, you know my name. You gave me my name. It's like, yeah. You get old, you can't think, especially if it's spur of the moment.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. Oh yeah.
I suffer from the same problem.
Like, man.
Yeah.
If it's a long number, I can remember a long number.
I was out fishing with Georgia today, and I called her Natalie, and she's like, Dad, I'm Georgia. I was like, well, okay, you.
Yeah.
You.
It was worse when I was coaching girls soccer.
Yeah.
I had all these girls out there, and you come here.
You come here.
Like, dang it, and I know their names.
Let's take a look here. Guys, we got about 10 minutes, give or take, and then we'll have to call it quits here. Cool. You have 239 people in here.
Wow.
You got a lot of people.
That's cool.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
I appreciate you guys dropping in on this.
That's really exciting. Yeah. Let's take a look here. I know you sell an upgrade kit for the LRS Plus. That's a Magnapan.
Yeah.
Can the panels be shipped to you and you install the upgrade kit and ship back to the customer?
I don't have time to do those right now. That's really tough.
Yeah.
It's just time consuming. You have to undo all of the staples, and you have to take the sock off, and it's like it's not hard to do. That kit is one of the easiest kits you guys can do. There's only like 4 parts in the whole crossover. Simple, easy to do. It's just time consuming to disassemble the Magnapans. I mean, I just don't have time to do that. That is very time consuming.
Yeah. Let's take a look here. Somebody jumping in here saying the LGK 2.0 is crazy good.
It is crazy good.
That is awesome.
A little desktop speaker. Like, man, those things sound so good, man. It's crazy.
My buddy Nick is in here. He's a longtime subscriber of NRD. Glad I caught a bit of the live stream. Good to see you, Nick. Thanks for joining us, man. Michael is saying, do you know Spindor speakers?
I've heard the Spindors, and I've seen them. There's not a lot of them out there. I don't see them very often. I haven't had them sent in for upgrades.
Okay.
So maybe Spindor owners are very happy.
Let's take a look here. Somebody's saying, guess off-grid power is too off-topic? Not really. I mean, Danny's system is off-grid.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of my front end, all my front end is all off the grid. It's all playing through batteries. So, yeah, it's a great little tweak.
Miguel, by the way, Miguel, I've been meaning to get back with you. And guys, the reason I haven't posted a video on my channel for a while is I've been a bit sick. I've had some sickness issues, but I'm feeling a lot better. But you're asking me, Ron, I emailed you regarding VTV wanting to send you some of his amps. I got your email, and I'll make sure that I take care of that. Thank you for the reminder.
Well, at least somebody sent you a message.
Yeah, I appreciate
Not just
that.
me.
I appreciate
Ask
that.
Ron stuff, guys.
Yeah. Has Danny ever done a frequency response on a speaker after playing rock music at high levels where the driver voice coils have heated up, thus increasing the impedance and altering crossover points? Would the point change?
It can change the crossover points, but man, you really got to heat the coils up a lot,
yeah.
in order for it to change the impedance. Usually at levels that we listen to, like I can play speakers for hours, and after it's played, set it up and take a measurement, it's hardly changed at all, like very, very little. There's more change from the compliance because you're just softening the compliance. It's warmed up, and there's a little bit of a change there, but it's almost nothing.
Let's take a look.
Got a super chat down there for $5.
Yeah, $5. Thanks for all your content, the both of you guys. Oh man, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
How far are we from Dallas? We're about 2 hours away.
2 hours, yeah. 2 hours drive.
Oh, somebody helped us out. Crowdfund. That's what
that was it.
It was a crowdfund.
Thank you, guys.
Man.
See, having that senior moment, I couldn't think of it. I knew that. I could not think of it.
Follow-up beating the N Extreme Future Line Force, pros and cons. Have you tried Radian drivers? Cost isn't an issue for me.
Wow. We did that line force with the BG drivers, and I've talked about doing that, revisiting that and redoing the design with LM10s as the mid-bass drivers and maybe either our Neo 3 tweeters or the Radian tweeters. I could do that. That's a lot of development cost, a lot of development time, and those drivers are expensive. If you're serious about that, based on what I did with the BG drivers, I'm going to say your 98 dB sensitivity, all planar magnetic, you'll have to use open baffle servo subs with it to cover the bottom end.
Yeah.
I've got the guts of it as far as the basics have been done.
The nuts and bolts,
with the BG drivers. I know how to make the baffle, the wing, the depth of the wing, all that's kind of already been figured out. So if you're really serious about that,
shoot Danny an email.
We could go and revisit that and redo that model, but that is not a cheap speaker to do. That cost is going to add up.
You're in it.
When you take those planar magnetics and you mount those into a baffle, you're basically cutting everything out of the baffle. What's left is just a thin frame.
So you got to have something really inert and strong.
If it was MDF that you cut it out of, by the time you lifted it on one end without any drivers mounted, it would just fold in half.
Yeah.
There's nothing left of it. So it has to be
something very strong.
We started out doing it in aluminum. And the last ones we did in a composite that was really strong, especially once you mounted all the drivers in it, that stiffened it up. So it's not cheap to buy that material and mill it all out of it. Ron, you got the giggles over here, man.
No, Nick is just laughing, I think, at himself because he gave us a super chat and he says, "Thanks, guys. Gonna checking out the whole vid tonight. Got." And then he says, "Sorry, fat fingered the super chat. That was a bad example of the English language."
And I'll tell you right now, I'm a horrible typer. Like I'll type things and if spell check doesn't grab it,
it's a mess.
It passed.
It sounds a lot like these.
Somebody gave me a hard time the other day. I posted something on Facebook, and I can't remember what it was that I typoed something, and it just went right through because it was the correct word, but it was the wrong like they or there. It was one of those deals where I typed the wrong one. They're like, "Man, you should get an education or something." Like, I've got an education. I just can't type.
All right, we're going to finish this up. We got one more here we're going to knock out. I liked the video that you did with Jay in the treated room. I could see his head explode.
It was. He was a little bit stunned.
That was fun.
Ron's listening room. People don't realize how good this room is. Like, if you want to know how something sounds, I can bring it over here to verify everything that I'm hearing at my place because his room will allow you to hear things that a lot of people would never get in their listening room. So it's awesome in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't you hear our voices echoing in here?
No.
It's so quiet when he shuts off the AC and we're sitting here. It's like it's like you're in a vacuum in here, and things are just right in the soundstage when you play stuff in here. It's so much fun.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun having him come down and experience that. And
Yeah.
I think that he has a good room. I don't think that his room is
His
bad,
room isn't bad.
but I could tell that the wheels were turning,
They
thinking
were.
like, man, I need to kind of level up with my room. I need to work
Yeah.
on it again. I could tell that that's what
He's
he
wanting to
wanted
move
to
to
do.
Texas somewhere.
Yeah.
They're looking at places, and one of the things on his list was like having a nice house, but with one of those, big metal buildings out back that has all these, multiple listening rooms.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, he wanted us to kind of help him out when he got to that listening room, treating it and stuff. And like, well, we'd be glad to help you out, man.
All right. So for people that are just jumping in, just to recap, Danny's getting ready to release a video on the Eagleston Oso. I helped out with doing some sound clips for him of everyone's always asking, hey, can we hear the speaker before and after? And finally, we've made that happen with that particular speaker.
Yeah. I've had reservations about doing that because when you're sitting in here, you hear so much within the soundstage and layering and things that once you record it and you put the headphones on, you can't hear any of that stuff anymore. You're just hearing the detail and the tonality, and you don't get to hear a lot of the things that I'm creating in the upgrade. A lot of those benefits are gone when you put on a set of headphones, or you play it back on whatever your system is. It's like a copy of whatever we were hearing. You're not hearing it.
Yeah.
Unless you're here. But in this case, that Eagleston speaker, there's so much difference going on there. It's like
I couldn't believe the difference in the sound clips.
It's really clear in the sound clips.
I couldn't believe it. Like I'm stunned. Like I've done so many sound clips. I told you, I said, this is the biggest difference that I've heard ever. Like it's night and day. And I'm excited for you, for your folks to hear that.
Yep.
And I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and it's like, let the chips fall where they fall. And it's people still prefer the stock speaker than they prefer it. But I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be like stunned at the difference. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. There's a big difference after that upgrade.
Yeah. That one was fun. And then another just quick note, stay tuned for the XLS Encore Extreme, which will have a tweeter on the back, and that will be a speaker that your customers can just buy fully assembled.
Order fully assembled. Yeah, that takes the Encore
to a different,
a whole new
level.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun speaker.
ETA on that? You think that you're a couple months away at least?
They're about to cut some prototype cabinets from me to test with, and the front, because it's swept away from the drivers, are going to have to mill all that into either hardwood, or they can mill it in MDF and wrap it in carbon fiber.
Yep.
Which looks really cool.
Yep.
So, yeah, we'll see. It's probably going to be closer to the end of the summer before I have maybe a pair of those up and playing.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot that goes into taking something and putting it into production.
Yeah.
There's a lot involved.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then last but not least, the thing that I'm most excited about is the prototype speaker, the first NRD speaker, which was originally named Aria, has been officially named AlphaOne. And that is right around the corner.
Yeah. And we just got the prototype cabinets in.
Yep.
Both cabinets now.
Yeah. The tower
version
looks beautiful. I'm excited to
Yeah,
show
it's going to be
off.
the same speaker with just deeper bass.
Yeah.
So that's coming. A lot of cool stuff coming. And the headphone amps.
Yeah.
And the new Verum 2s. Those, there's a waiting list for those. Those will probably all be gone the moment we start saying we have them here.
Yeah.
Those are all going to go quick. We'll put them on the website so you can see some of the color choices and stuff like that. But we have a waiting list for those things, so they're going to be gone in a hurry.
Last thing that I wanted to mention is, I'm aware of every single video that Danny drops because I edit all his videos. And I think he's been kind of in a funk of like, what am I going to talk about? What do these guys want to hear?
And I've been busy working on stuff.
You've been busy working on stuff. Yeah. So for future viewers that are watching this, just drop a comment. Hey, Danny, you should talk about this, or Danny, you should do a video about that. And that might inspire him to go, oh, hey, I should talk about that.
Might be.
Yeah.
I've done some pretty cool ones lately. I was really proud of the ones, the 2-part or 3-part ones I did on distortion.
Oh,
those were great videos. And then what was the last ones I did that was a 2-part one that we just did?
I'm trying to remember.
See, here's those senior moments again.
I know.
What was it that I talked about?
Yeah.
Those videos came out really well. If you haven't watched them, go back and grab those.
Yeah.
And I like doing the Tech Talk style videos.
You and I got to help you with this, but we're going to tackle harmonic distortion in a very interesting way that people aren't going to see coming.
That's going to freak some people.
That's going to freak some people out.
Yeah. That's true.
So we'll have some fun with that. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on the live stream. Thanks for supporting both of our channels.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
We'll see you guys in the next video.
That was fun.